Welcome to Deal Nation. We're joined today by Jimmy Quigg from New Western. How you doing, Jimmy?
Good, Michael. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm super excited about this one. I was happy to have you on anyway because I love what you guys do at New Western, and I think it fits
Sure.
really well with our audience. Gives them an incredible tool. But in the meantime, since we signed up to have you on, we've worked out a partnership between Launch and New Western, and we'll get into that. I'm going to just use that as a teaser because we're going to talk about you a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that partnership I think is going to be just a huge, huge win for our community, and so I'm excited to roll that out. But before we get to partnerships, let's talk about Jimmy. Let's get a little bit into kind of your history and who you work with over at New Western.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, first I'd like to say I'm super excited today. I'm appreciative of you having me on here today, and I'm also excited about the partnership. I think it's going to be great. But yeah, I'll just start. I got my start in this real estate space a little over 10 years ago, actually with New Western. I started as a sales agent for them, and it's kind of a funny story. I was a small town kid, and I moved up here to the big city of Dallas, where our main headquarters is, to be a sales agent. And I came with nothing but opportunity. Like literally, I was actually almost the first year of being an agent, I was like living in my car. I had nothing. So
Oh
um,
wow.
yeah, so started out there. Started out as a sales agent. Um, Started building relationships with the investors to introduce them to the marketplace and finding deals and learning their needs. And then after about a year or so, maybe a little bit over a year, I moved into our acquisition agent role, which is more so on the buying side, finding deals for the marketplace. Um, and along the way there, that's where I really kind of found my calling, almost, so to speak, with wholesalers. Because although I was pretty good with going direct to seller and finding deals direct to seller for the company, where I really enjoyed was with wholesalers. And it mainly came down to two things. When I was dealing with sellers, it was kind of a short-term relationship. So you had to kind of be a master of building that relationship quickly. And then after getting the deal done, just the nature of the business, you really didn't have much contact with them, as compared to with wholesalers. Once you got a deal done, it was like, all right, we're on to the next. And you kind of built that long-term relationship. And so that side really kind of spoke to me, and I really appreciated it. So that's where, that led me to where I'm at today. Because in those days when I was working with those wholesalers, the company was also a lot smaller than what it is today. And we were growing pretty rapidly and expanding into new markets and stuff. But something that I noticed was my wholesalers were doing the same. And, in those days, we didn't really have kind of the program that I'm overseeing now today, which is, helps wholesalers kind of work with us more nationally than just from a market to market basis. And so, I had a couple of times where I just almost fumbled relationships simply because we didn't have that program in place. And so luckily, whenever the powers that be here at New Western to kind of realize that and realized, hey, we need to find a way that we can bring these wholesalers along with us as we're expanding, because they are too. And it's really more than just a transactional relationship. We really view it as a partnership, because when they succeed, we succeed. So I was lucky enough to kind of be at the forefront of that idea of how we're going to build this out. And they asked me to kind of come in and oversee it. And I was very fortunate. So here I am today, just day in and day out, building relationships with wholesalers all over the nation for us. So I love it.
No, that's great, and I really like that you said that you guys view this as a true partnership. Because
Yeah.
look just from an outside perspective, looking in from a sales and marketing perspective, wholesaling in general, or wholesale investors are such an overlooked resource in the real estate investment space, because they're out doing the hustle work every single day. So they're in launch control, they're sending batches out, they're getting onto discovery calls with homeowners, they're finding out motivation and timeline, and they're running through that whole process of vetting the entire distressed property market. and so there's these pipelines all over the country in every market, wholesalers that are doing that hustle work that allows you to go and from your position talk to somebody who's pre-vetted a property, that knows the details, and it creates these pipelines of B2B business that flow into what you guys are doing. So nurturing those partnerships, I think, is really important.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head there. I mean, these guys are out, really hustling, and the landscape of wholesaling's changed to where a lot of times they're hustling and building more than just one pipeline for themselves, and so that's where we come in and help them in their expansion and kind of automate the whole disposition side of their program so that they can continue to grow themselves. So yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so can you walk us through that a bit? Because I think that, for it's something that we'll hear sometimes at launch controls. I'm just going to use Phoenix as an example because it's one of the top wholesaling markets in the country. And if somebody comes in, they're like, I'm just hitting a wall in Phoenix. I've run through my data, I've called everybody, I'm hitting a wall, and they want to
Mhm.
expand out, but they don't want to expand out 30 miles to the east or 30 miles to the west. They want to try a new market. Standing up a new market, there's a fear factor in that because they don't have the buyers networks. They don't have maybe quite the market evaluation that they'd like. They of course can do that homework and get that information, but you know, you guys enabling them to stand that up quickly is really an interesting route for them to take. So can you walk us through that a little bit of how you can help them expand, automate, and grow
Yeah,
quickly?
yeah, absolutely. And it comes from, like, there's multiple different ways that it's beneficial for wholesalers when they work with us, because it just automates the entire system, right? Like, there's plenty of ways out there right now that you can go and get your deal in front of 100,000 buyers, but like, do you really want to? Right?
Right.
It's the exact same as when they're coming to you guys at launch control. They have all of these leads, and it's like, it can be very cumbersome and time consuming to work all these leads. So they're working with a group like launch control, and it's like a funnel system, right? Like, y'all are pulling, there's 1,000 leads here, and y'all are pulling all these leads out of the top of the funnel and funneling down to them, just those hot leads that are ready to go, that they can jump on. It's the same with us, right? Like, we have 200,000 buyers in our marketplace. And when I say 200,000 buyers, I don't mean 200,000 emails. Like, these are all relationships that our local agents have gone out and built with these investment buyers, and they know what they're looking for.
200,000?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
massive number.
It's a lot, and that's what I mean. And as cool as that 200,000 number is, really, I think the cooler number is we actually buy and sell a home in our marketplace every 13 minutes. So we're working on a crazy volume. So we can speak a little bit
Yeah.
to that more in a minute, but I want to finish here with, we get the buyers, right? When we put that deal in our marketplace, there's tons of buyers who are looking at it, but we funnel out the ones that, aren't qualified their deal, or maybe it's not necessarily a deal for them, and kind of get the right buyer in front of the deal and out to the deal, so that once we get it contracted, that we're only presenting it to the buyers that are going to actually buy that deal. And so it's a funnel system that way, like y'all, but also it automates the entire system, because we're the entire side of the disposition system for the wholesaler, because we're handling it from beginning to end with the buyer. They basically kind of, what it looks like is, when they get a deal in a new market, especially a new market, which is another reason that I want to go over here, that is an opportunity of value for us, is we're doing a ton of deals in that market already. So we find a lot of success with wholesalers whenever we're kind of getting with them right before they're contracting these deals, to give them pricing guidance and just local market knowledge, right? Like, for instance, when I was an agent in Dallas, there's multiple neighborhoods that, for instance, Lockwood here in Dallas, we could sell deals at like 80% in this entire neighborhood, except for like the southeast corner of the neighborhood. The houses were built a little bit different and maybe a little bit different like 10 years later or what have you. And so, or earlier. And so, if we got a deal in that pocket of that neighborhood, we had to sell it at 75%. Like buyers wouldn't buy at 80%, right? And so it can be as finite as understanding that. And if you haven't bought, 10, 15, 20 deals in that neighborhood already, you may not know those things. So it's literally is finite as that for when wholesalers are trying to break into these new markets, that not only do they have a complete system set up to disposition whenever they're looking to contract, to have success with these contracts, we build a relationship. Our acquisition agent is building that relationship with them and communicating and giving them that knowledge so that they know where they can contract this deal to have the most success.
Yeah, so not only is it a safety net, it's essentially real-time deal analysis and vetting, or deal analysis and I guess that, right? Like that, to be able to analyze and know whether a deal is a smart move or not. They can almost do that in real time rather than spending however much time and resources it would take to put that together ahead of time. So yeah, so for our partnership, we're going to have with Launch Control and New Western, we're going to have a direct pipeline for Launch Control subscribers to be able to submit properties. So I'm gonna put that up on screen now. For everybody listening, we'll put the link in the episode description below, but it's just newwestern.com/launch control. And so what I want to go through this a little bit is I'd like to looking at this portal that's on screen, and for everybody listening, this is just that direct portal for the Launch and New Western partnership. At what point, because you mentioned, even pre-contract, people are talking to you, right? So like, at what point would you advise investors to initiate, conversations via the portal? And then how much flexibility do they have once they're in that system? I know you guys are doing things rapid fire every 13 minutes, but what kind of timing and flexibility do they have once they've hit enter on this screen?
Yeah. So once they send it over, I mean, kind of what that process looks like is their information will come over to here, and it'll either be me or somebody who works with me that actually reaches out directly to them, and we just kind of start the relationship there, man. I'll have a conversation with them, kind of get an understanding of who they are, where they're at in their journey of being a wholesaler, and kind of at that point, I'll be able to understand how best we are going to be to help them, because there's wholesalers that are just getting started, and then there's wholesalers that are already crushing it in multiple markets, and we can help, and there's ways we can help those guys and gals at every level. So at that point, I'll just kind of walk them through the next steps of what they can expect from us. And whether it be just getting them directly to one of my agents out in the field, or if, we're just saving each other's information and they've got my direct line at that point to get back with me whenever they have a deal. But usually until they at least have that first deal, or very close to contracting that first deal after that initial conversation, that's really kind of when, we hit the ground running with them to get them going.
I absolutely love that y'all are a we approach and not a system approach, because I think that would be probably a fear going in, is people think that they're going to enter their information and property information into a portal. The portal's going to spit back a number, and it's a take it or leave it kind of situation. But the fact that when you guys say that you're creating partnerships, like, you mean it. They're talking to you. They're talking to your team. You're finding out who they are, so that you know how to actually maximize and optimize that partnership. I think that's an incredible value for anybody working with y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's when building anything, right? If you've ever built anything in your life, you understand that to build something that's going to last, you have to have a strong foundation. And so, I mean, if we just said, yeah, enter your information here, and then you got some text back or an email back of, this is
Nothing wrong with the text
taking
back,
it.
Jimmy, but a
Yeah,
call
well,
also
but
would be good.
right. But what I'm saying is these are long-term relationships, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've got to get on and assess exactly what you need to do to be successful. And so that's where we start. We start with that strong foundation, just really kind of start building that relationship so that, we both can be successful.
And what kind of questions or concerns do wholesalers typically come in with when they get to you? Like, what's the trust building process from your side of things?
Yeah. So, look, there's no secret that in this industry in the past, there's been, it, there's been some characters that aren't, doing things above board. But, I just always remind the wholesalers that I'm on the phone with that that's just not us. I mean, we do business with wholesalers all over the country. And we didn't get this big and do this much business and have this much success with not only ourselves but for other wholesalers by doing anything shady. And it literally just that volume play that I was talking about earlier really speaks to that, right? Like the fact that we do buy and sell a home every 13 minutes. We don't make a whole lot of we're not in the business of trying to make a whole lot of money per deal. Where we make our living is in the volume that we do. So we value that relationship that we build with the wholesaler infinitely over any one particular deal. That's why, because a lot of times, right, a wholesaler, you get a lead, you're getting close, and you've got somebody going like, oh, let me see what you're working before you have it contracted. Like, that can cause some pause. But for us, it's just like, man, it truly is like, I just want to help steer you in the right direction. Because for me, I'm not going to try to take one deal from you because that's going to do nothing for me. I want to buy 100 deals from you, right? So, we value that relationship infinitely over any one particular deal.
Yeah, you and I were talking about this the other day, and in the distressed property market, anytime you identify a willing seller, there's money to be made there, right? There's just sometimes a question of whether the time equity is worth it. So if you've got a deal as a wholesaler and the margins are off by 5% or 7% or something like that, and especially if it's a new market, the time equity that it would take to line up a buyer, or the money you'd lose JVing the deal, or have to share, not lose, that you'd have to share JVing the deal, just the time and effort that it would take to eke out that deal, it kind of invalidates the 5% loss, right? Whereas
That's right.
if they can work with y'all and do it almost real time, like to have that relationship, that pipeline set up with you, then that takes those small margin misses and turns them into instant wins, which is, I think, again, hugely valuable for any wholesaler in our network.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I couldn't say it any better than that. Yeah, it's why try to squeeze out just a little bit on one deal whenever we can collaborate and do 5 deals in the same amount of time,
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of walk through this from a step-by-step process. Let's assume that you and I have kind of set up trust. I'm a wholesaler. We've kind of set up trust. You and your team have gone through the process of figuring out, well, I guess some of the questions that you would ask, like, what is my buy box? What areas am I interested in? What kind of pre-relationship information are you getting from people to kind of establish what you need?
As far as like whenever they have a deal in hands and they're looking to work,
or just their first point of contact with you guys when you're kind of building that partnership profile, what kind of information are you getting from them?
From them, I just where all that they're wholesaling at, like what markets that they're in, what markets are they thinking about expansion now? Is that something that they're worried about? How many deals they're currently doing? Those are the questions that I'm asking to kind of see where they're at and what they're doing in that initial conversation. And then yeah, then from there, like I said, I start getting them in contact with my guys in the field so that they can start to build that relationship with the guy in the field as well. And as they build that relationship with them, I'm always an extra point of contact with the company, a central point of contact. So let's say that maybe they're working in Dallas and in Phoenix doing deals. And so I've got them in contact with my guys in Dallas and my guys in Phoenix, and they start doing well. And they're like, okay, I'm looking at a third market. Maybe I want to do LA. They can come right back to me. They'll have my personal cell. They can just give me a ring and say, hey, we're starting to do some marketing out in LA. We've got a couple deals coming through the pipeline. We want to get you guys, on idea on what y'all are thinking here, ARV and rehab wise. And so I'm like, great, yeah, let me send you out to my guy out in LA, and we get them over and they get rolling out there.
Okay. So let's say for instance, I want to go into I don't know, the Dallas Fort Worth market as a wholesaler, and I get my hands on a pretty solid probate list, and I use launch control and I start reaching out, and I get some discovery calls lined up, and I get a willing seller, but the numbers aren't exactly where I want them to be, and I don't really have set buyers in Dallas Fort Worth, so I come to you guys. And what's the timeline from entering that portal that I had on screen a moment ago to having a number that they can either by take or leave, I assume?
Yeah. So that's a tough question, because at that point, from the situation, I'm just assuming that you're not in Dallas.
Right.
You've come into Dallas. So at that point, we're not only are we giving you that market knowledge and setting you up by running the Dispo in this market for you, but we're actually acting as boots on the ground for you, right? So
Wow.
it's do you have photos of that deal from the seller? If not, can you get me access? When is access? And then we'll go out there and take a look at it for you. And just depending on the time it takes to get access and get all that, it can really vary on how quickly that we can get you the answer on that. But like if it's a deal that you've already gotten, you're speaking with the seller, you've got very recent, like they've already sent you recent photos of the property, and we're looking at it and we can check it all out and kind of see, okay, what's this thing needing and work wise and everything like that. We try to get back, same day, with the wholesaler, with, kind of what we're thinking that we'll need to have them, what we think we'll need to get it moved for them at. So, they'll have that number then, within the same day. But again, if there's no photos and you need access, it's like, okay, when can you get us in? Once we get in, we'll walk it. Give me an hour. Let me run some analysis and I'll give you a call back. It's about that quick.
Yeah, it's really impressive. I think that it's very interesting that on one hand you say that we're not in this for the big profit. We're in this to do volume, and yet you're taking an incredible amount of care to actually have boots on the ground, to go out and evaluate these properties, to run real analysis, and not just going back of the napkin like, here, we'll give you this, here, we'll give you, like you're actually out there doing the business of wholesaling and on the disposition side, taking great care in the dispo process and coming back with evaluations that are, while might be very fair to the wholesaler, are something that you guys have taken care and attention to craft.
Yeah. Well, look, at the end of the day, like, not only are we worried about their success in that, we're worried about our success as well, right? So like if we don't have photos and stuff like that, and you've already worked this deal and it's at the point that you're about to contract it, and it's, again, it's money on the table. We're going to do what we need to get the deal, get the deal done, right? To be successful in that deal, to perform for the wholesaler so that they keep bringing us deals. So whatever that kind of looks like, we're game for it.
Yeah, again, going back to partnerships, right? It's a pipeline, and you want them to continue to bring you deals. You want that to be a business relationship and not just a one-time transaction.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And, I was going to say, every single market that we're in, we have, an actual brick and mortar office with licensed, state licensed agents. that are hungry, right? They're hungry to make money, and they're in this business for the same reason that wholesalers are in this business, right? So they get it, they understand, they want to build those relationships and be successful, and so it's pretty much, I mean, that's kind of how we work across the board.
Well, and a similarity that I think that both of our companies have is we're in all markets essentially. We're in so many different markets around the country that we can start to see market trends, right? We can start to see where certain markets are heating up, where certain markets are cooling down, and so there's a nationwide sort of lens on the distressed property market that an individual wholesaler or individual distressed property investor isn't necessarily going to have, right? They can go to their mastermind groups, they can go to their communities, but the organizations that have that nationwide reach are often going to have that. So, working with you guys in that partnership sense, like you can help guide them in terms of, if the market that they're interested in is just adjacent to a market that's really hot, you can guide them that direction, push them
That's right.
slightly to the right, slightly to the left, and that's invaluable.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I even have wholesalers that I've been working with for a while that are like, "Hey, we're about ready to try to maybe take on another market. Where should we go?" And I,
Yeah.
again, having that national lens is invaluable, because I'm like, "Hey, look, Charlotte's crushing it right now. I would say let's go to Charlotte." Or again, same. They could be like, "Well, uh, we're thinking we're in Florida, we're in Orlando, we're thinking either Tampa or Fort Myers." And, at the time I could say, let's go Tampa, or, let's go Fort Myers. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge win. Very, very valuable for anybody in the community. So I would love to hear just a couple of success stories, investors that you've worked with, and of, their thoughts coming in, their problem they were trying to solve, and then, how you and your team put something together for them.
Yeah. Well, I can kind of speak to, like I said, we work with wholesalers at all levels, and I can speak to both, single market wholesalers up to the bigger ones who have expanded multiple markets. I mean, I've definitely had wholesalers in single markets that come to me, and initially kind of had that thought and idea, like we talked about, where they don't really like the idea of sharing the profit of a deal, so they've exhausted all avenues trying to move a deal, and you know they're unsuccessful, and they finally say, hey, they call me up and say, Jimmy, hey, we've worked every avenue we can here, we want to give you guys a shot. And we take a look at the deal, we kind of tell them what we think about the deal. Is it, and it's been as quick as, oh, I've got a buyer for that, boom, we get it sold for them, all the way up to, man, this thing's not moving, and here's why, and here's what you need to do to make this thing move, and go get it at this price and we can get it done, kind of thing,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, so that's single market success stories up to the multiple market. I mean, I've had wholesalers that were crushing it in a single market, and whenever I started speaking to them, whenever we first got in contact, I realized that they're doing good business, and they were kind of already mentioning on that first conversation, they were thinking about, moving to another market. And I'm like, hey, you came to the right guy, because that's what I do. That's literally what I'm here for. And, we've started them out and moved them to just 5 extra markets. I mean, as quickly as that, within a couple months, 5 extra markets, all the way up to today. They're one of my better wholesale groups, and they're doing business everywhere that we're doing business. And I want to say that they've only probably hired like 1 or 2 people since that great of an expansion, simply because they just automate that entire system through us.
Yeah, so when it's a solo entrepreneur, like obviously though somebody in that position is going to be making a deal by deal decision on whether to take it down themselves, work with a partner, go directly to you guys, get a deal. But you're obviously working with some big teams that are, like as you alluded to, expanding into multiple markets. So I'm guessing you're not always working with the owner of the company. You're probably synced up pretty well with their acquisitions teams. Do they have certain processes internally that they usually set up, to really kind of optimize the automation side of things that you guys provide?
Yeah. So, and on our side too, that's kind of, we're always tinkering with different ways to kind of optimize that process as well. And as we come up with new ways, we will work with certain wholesalers to see if that works. And if it does, then we'll kind of expand to the other wholesalers that are roughly the same size as the ones we've tested it with. But yeah, again, to speak to your question, yeah, they're at every level. And so it just depends, if they're smaller, it's a lot of just building that direct relationship with the agent in their one market or the two markets that they're in. And then as they progress and get bigger, that's when a little bit more of my team and the oversight that we have to kind of optimize that, because there's a lot more moving pieces when you're working across the board as compared to just a couple.
Yeah, and I mean, I assume you guys must have a pretty high ROI impact on a lot of these companies that you work with, because if you're talking a solo entrepreneur, if you can go from doing, I don't know, 2 deals a month to 3 deals a month, that's it's a 30% increase in your
Yeah.
profitability over the course of the year. That's a huge increase. So
Right.
I'm, any kind of anecdotal stories you guys can share in terms of just ROI impact that you've had with some of the companies you worked with or
Well,
wholesalers?
I mean, look, I'll at least, again, the group that was doing, business and crushing it in one market and now doing 30 plus markets with us. I mean, think of the ROI when I say, they've only hired two people, right? So I could imagine,
Yeah.
of course, I can't see their books. I don't know how much extra they're spending in marketing and things like that. But I mean, if you're doing deals in one market and you're doing deals in 30 plus, I mean, you're definitely doing a lot more, making a lot more money.
Yeah, Steve Trang was on the other day, and he's very big on really optimizing the closing out the leads that you already have, right? Instead of just going out and getting more, be more efficient with the ones that you have, right? So if you've got 60 opportunities and you can close, I don't know, twice the number of opportunities, you're going to double your profit. But if you can do that without increasing your spending, you're going to more than double your profit, right? So if you're talking about going into X number of new markets and only hiring 2 people, like your increase in overhead is so low, and your increase in ROI has got to be, I don't know, 10x, 15x, 20x. Like it's massive, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I already we were talking about it yesterday on the phone, but anybody watching this and hasn't watched that podcast with Steve Trang, it's a good one. It's worth
Yeah.
going and checking it out as well. There's a lot of really good nuggets in there.
Yeah, he's always very good about being super open about things. He doesn't have a closed box of advice. He lets it
Yeah,
all go, which is nice.
yeah. Which is
Um,
that's the way you got to be in this business, to be honest.
yeah, and it sounds like you guys are very transparent yourselves. Like a couple things that I want to kind of go back and highlight that I'm really excited about with this partnership that we've got between Launch and New Western is that you guys are very focused on creating pipelines with your wholesalers. You're not looking for just the odd one-off deal. You're looking to create a relationship with them so that they become a feeder system for you guys, which is so mutually beneficial, right? Like you're able to, as a company, you're able to profit from them doing the hard work and going out and talking to sellers, vetting these properties and finding out what's actually a viable distressed market deal. But you provide them with so much safety and flexibility in their business where they're able to take some shots that they wouldn't be able to take before because they have a built-in Dispo process with your team that allows them to take down deals that they wouldn't be able to take down before. So the partnership aspect, the care that you guys take with the boots on the ground and really vetting these properties and doing the business of analyzing properties on site, and then the what is it, you buy a property every 13 minutes,
Yeah.
the speed at which you're able to do it, that just efficiency of pipeline and the kind of transparency that happens across that full pipeline. I mean, I think that is a very, very obvious win for any wholesaler nationally, but especially for those that are using launch control and, getting consistent conversations with homeowners, and perhaps coming across on a weekly basis deals that they'd like to take down, but doesn't quite meet that time equity thing that we discussed, right? So now they've got another outlet, and yeah, the increase in ROI and the way that can transform their businesses, I think is exceptional.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for everybody listening, this is going to be, hopefully you're furiously taking notes and getting ready to send some things over to that pipeline. I'll share the banner here. This is where you can kind of get an early jump on the launch New Western partnership. And we'll put the link in the episode description below. But we're gonna be doing, for everybody who is a launch control subscriber and also just part of the New Western community. We're gonna do a 3-part series on how to take advantage of this partnership and how to integrate it into your business. So the first one's going to be in a couple weeks in late September, and then we'll do another one in October, another one in November. We're going to keep this conversation going. So if you've been jotting down questions and you want to reach out and connect with both of our teams, keep an eye out for that invitation. And we're gonna do a very, very detailed, essentially, onboarding for this partnership, so everybody is very, very comfortable and knows how to, again, integrate it into their businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, I'm excited about it.
Me too. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Jimmy. I really appreciate it. And for anybody listening, you can connect with Jimmy and I on that first presentation coming up in a couple of weeks.
Cool. Awesome. Look forward to it, Michael.
All right. Thank you, sir.